Risers and Fallers is back, and this time it's personal as Evan and I cover a seventh round rookie running back, some very disappointing second round wide receivers, and more right here on Player Profiler. All right, Evan and I are back. We are live. We are doing the damn thing. We are 9 weeks into the fantasy football season. We're getting our asses kicked. We're kicking asses. Everything's happening to us. Evan, where are you as we cross over the halfway threshold?
Hanging in there, man. It's really the toughest part of the season. We're just grinding it out. It's nice to be back with you, though. It's been a couple of weeks since we recorded, so excited to get into it today.
Yep, the fantasy streets were on my tail. They're trying to blow my cover here for a certain account, but obviously we're not going to let that happen. So we're just going to push right on forward here and get to the meat and potatoes of today. So let's start with our risers. And this one it's a first on the show this year. We have had a repeat disappointer on the show, but we have not had somebody who was a faller make their way into the riser category. So let's talk a little Chase Brown up to running back 11 on our seasonal ranks at Player Profiler, ahead of guys like Bucky Irving, Derrick Henry, Kyron Williams. As you can see there, our signature statistic today, he is fourth in RB targets. Thank you, Lord Flacco. So what made you so inspired to get Chase Brown rocking and rolling in the right direction?
Yeah, let's go, man. I thought this season was going to be completely cooked for Chase Brown, but Joe Flacco is the savior for all of Cincinnati. Over the first 6 weeks of the season, Chase Brown was one of the most disappointing picks you could have made. The QB play and the run blocking in Cincinnati was just atrocious. He didn't really have a chance. And then through weeks 5 through 8, they started giving Samaje Perine like a legitimate share of the rushing work, which, I thought spelled complete doom for Brown.
Yeah.
But it's all changed in the last couple of weeks. The Bengals have climbed up to 11th in run blocking rating. And Brown has gone over 100 yards in 3 straight games. On Sunday, Chase Brown saw a 95% snap share, which is pretty much what we were seeing at the end of last year when he was crushing. Yeah. So I think that Chase Brown's ceiling has been reopened as a potential back-end running back 1, particularly if he can maintain most of last week's usage. Because that's why we were drafting him, is because we wanted the 80 to 90% opportunity share guy in a Joe Burrow offense. And we can still get there if it's a 80 and 90% opportunity share in a Joe Flacco offense.
Talking true bell cow stuff here. I mean, Evan, how does a player that finished 11 in rushes for 37 yards and no touchdowns finishes the RB6 on the week? He does it with 14 targets in a game. Bengals are Joe Flacco's age combined with the Bengals offensive line really make the ripcord in this offense as easy to pull as you're going to find in those little Browns into the outlet. It's just kind of everything you want. Nothing like a little late October Halloween magic to bring back a zombie from the dead here. And look, Joe Flacco's play cannot be understated here. And is it great play? No, but his willingness to play. Look what he's done to Joe Burrow here. He has caused Joe Burrow to have. 1 year ago, Joe Burrow was quoted as saying, "I don't get into Halloween. I don't like dressing up. I don't get into all that stuff." A year later, look what Joe Flacco has done to him in just 1 month as the Bengals quarterback. We got consecutive top 6 finishes from Brown, and now he gets something that's really nice down the stretch. Steelers, Ravens, Patriots, Bills, Ravens again, Dolphins. Those are either going to be high-scoring games or good matchups for Brown. Bengals defense, 3 consecutive 31-point games given up, so that's really going to give him that receiving production that's been so quality. And then, of course, Samaje Perine missing time as well. So very excited about the outlook for Brown and Brown drafters going forward.
Yeah, I was all in on these Bengals players, Chase Brown and T. Higgins especially. So, my bags were not looking good a month ago, and now it looks like they're actually going to get there. It's a miracle.
They were obviously listening to the show when we did our fallers, because I don't think it was 2 weeks later that they traded for Flacco, thrust him in the lineup, and boy, our lineups are doing it. Let's talk about another guy here who I know you got to be smiling after that performance on Sunday night. Tory Horton, wide receiver, Seattle Seahawks. Now, let's little behind the scenes for the viewers out there. This was a pick that I made for the show. Evan and I submit our risers and our fallers. Let's get the view fixed there. Sorry, folks. We submit our risers and fallers usually around Tuesday, maybe, and then we get ready for a Wednesday, Thursday show. Of course, I selected this before the trade deadline. Obviously, Rashid Shaheed comes over And that is going to impact things some way, somehow. But I'm still pretty excited about what Horton has flashed so far this season. He's up to wide receiver 57 in our seasonal ranks. That's ahead of guys like Malik Washington, Darnell Mooney, Jerry Jeudy, RIP. 5 total touchdowns on the year. Pretty nice. 6 in target premium. Signature statistic, though, for the people looking in the bottom right corner there, 2nd overall in fantasy points per target. How are you feeling about Tory Horton?
I'm feeling great. When you watch him play, I think that he looks clearly explosive and he's winning early. I will say that good luck finding metrics to back up. It's pretty rough when you look
Yeah.
at like all the important stats that we like to look at for receivers,
Mhm.
except for the fantasy points because he's just scoring touchdowns. This is really a great fit with Sam Darnold because Horton can get downfield and win downfield. Unfortunately, I do think Shaheed probably just completely takes over that role going forward. But this is certainly a good sign for Horton's dynasty value.
Yeah.
Might be a good time to buy low, even off of a big game, just because of this Shaheed acquisition.
Yeah, what you want to see from these guys is their ability to play early and play in high leverage situations, play on teams that are dominant. I mean, the Seahawks are maybe the second best, if not the best team in the NFC right now. And let's see here. What else do we get? So the Shaheed thing is interesting because Shaheed is known for being this kind of vertical burner, if you may say. He's explosive player. Certainly he's versatile in the kick return game. He's 6 foot, 183. And then you compare that to Horton, who's 6'3" and 196. Shaheed runs a 4.53. Horton runs a 4.41. So I wonder if there's just a scenario here where does talent, maybe inexperience versus talent, what could we end up having here? I kind of see a lot of George Pickens in Horton's game, in his physical game, not in his head game. He seems to be a good kid, good head on his shoulders. But, this is a team that excels at throwing the deep ball. They run a lot of heavy personnel sets. They were very popular in the news these last couple of weeks for their efficiency throwing out of heavy personnel and how they're still bombing it down the field, and they're very successful doing that. So I wonder if there's room for both of these guys to eat. They're not going to be on the field often at the same time because you will never take JSN off the field if you can. He's just too damn good. And then they just don't run enough 11 personnel for that really to be the case. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think they're maybe 31st in 11 personnel. So you're going to see 2 wide receiver sets. Who ends up being, does Shaheed coming over? The problem with this for Horton fans is that Shaheed is familiar with the system. He got to spend last year with Clint Kubiak in New Orleans. He gets to come right in. It's not going to be like another wide receiver we're talking about later up in the show going to another team where there's going to be some ramp up for a lot of these guys off the bat. That's a little bit of a downside here, but overall, like you said, dynasty-wise, love the talent, love the situation, love the fit. Could be a lot of fun going forward.
Yeah, I'm expecting Shaheed to get acclimated very quickly. Maybe Horton still has more snaps in him this week, although I would expect it to be Shaheed. And then after that, Rashid is just going to totally take over.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a kind of a rough one. You could have just switched your player and nobody would have cared, but you wanted to stick with it. So I respect it.
I have to. I've got a lot of what's the term I'm looking for here? I need to build up more equity with the viewers. I've been I've been under the spotlight this week, so I need people to know I'm not afraid of challenge. I will ask you this: Shaheed in the backfield and just let Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet be the backups. I mean, could that not just solve all of our problems here?
What are we talking about, man?
Just trying to come up with a way that everybody wins. Oh, it's fun stuff. All right. Well, everybody wins. Everybody loses too. And we're going to get to some big losers here. We have got probably the biggest loser at the wide receiver position this year coming up. And then we've got another guy who's kind of seesawed pretty heavily this year. We'll get right back to that after the break.
People say, oh, there's so much free on Player Profiler. What's in the premium package? Well, it starts with the player rankings. We have the best process for ranking and projecting players, not just seasonal leagues, though. We're talking about tight end premium, specifically FFPC, best ball, specifically underdog, including their superflex rankings. And then we have IDP rankings, dynasty rankings, rookie rankings, Scott Fishbowl rankings, offensive line rankings by Dan Fornick, cornerback rankings throughout the season where you can see who's matched up with who. It's incredible. And think about who's contributed to our processes over time. Math majors, analytics powerhouses, plus you get the contributions from the real football guys. Billy Muzio, Dan Williamson, Bradley Stalder, That's why our rankings are the best. And if you want to upgrade and go all in, use promo code Underworld or your host promo code, and you get $25 off.
Boom. Who doesn't love that? Get the good stuff going, everybody. We're giving you everything you need to win your leagues here. We're giving you everything you need to not lose it as well. So, Evan, let's get to our followers here. We've got the hottest one off the block here. We'll transition from Tory Horton to Brian Thomas Jr. How the mighty have fallen, down to wide receiver 40 in our player profiler seasonal ranks. He's behind Troy Franklin, Romeo Dobbs, Deebo Samuel. If you had told me this was going to be the case in August, Evan, I would have had you committed, and I might even have gone another step further. What's going on with BTJ?
Man, it's really rough. It's been really rough. I was just talking about him yesterday on the game plan with Matty Kiwoom, and we were discussing him as a potential drop in redraft leagues because he's got this ankle injury. We don't know exactly what it is, but the rumors are that it's a high ankle sprain. If that's true, then you're not going to be getting him back until around the fantasy playoffs.
Yeah.
And he's obviously just been horrible this year. He's the wide receiver 42 in points per game. He's outside the top 30 in the most predictive wide receiver metrics. He's, the 9 drops. That's the one that really stands out. And only one game as a top 29 receiver this year. Even when he does come back, I'm not expecting him to be heavily featured in the offense because of the Jacoby Myers acquisition, but more of just a boom bust deep threat and really a wide receiver 3 at best. And that's when he comes back, which we don't know when he's going to be back.
Yeah, this is a sad one to talk about, really, because this is a player with one top 30 finish this season alone, and it's not for lack of effort. 7th in snap share, 3rd in team passing plays, 19th in targets. It's some weird combination of he's not playing even remotely well, and I don't think they're using him terribly well. They don't move him around the formation, no motion, nothing like that. Trevor Lawrence is kind of a wishy-washy player too. Maybe with a more steady or consistent quarterback, things might be a little bit different, although I certainly wouldn't say they're good. But Trevor Lawrence kind of plays, he plays erratic, and that leads to high leverage plays. It also leads to turnovers at the goal line. So it's okay if you take all that away. It's okay if you're ceding targets to Travis Hunter, but you cannot be trailing Parker Washington and Dyami Brown in catches and yards with 7 minutes left of a close, high-scoring game. Jaguars have been number 1 in wide receiver usage from week 6 through week 9. And you probably didn't know that if you own Brian Thomas Jr. You might have if you own Parker Washington. But that's the strange thing. Parker Washington is the wide receiver 1 on this team. You bring Jacoby Myers in now, who will be the wide receiver 2 with, Dyami Brown is just not reliable. Brenton Strange, 23 targets in the first month of the season. Sleeper tight end pick for several people. He's on track to return soon, and that's somebody who has a connection with Lawrence. So I don't usually like to put a lot of stock in, an acquisition like Jacoby Myers, at least right off of the gate. But the fact that it's a new regime doing this, this is not the team that drafted Brian Thomas Jr. They're being aggressive early, and they're not exactly being kind to him in the media either. It's just really, really difficult to find hope right now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been poring over the usage metrics, trying to figure out why this is happening. But mostly I think it's just Brian Thomas having the yips and dropping the football when he's over the middle of the field. The one thing that I did notice is that his design targets have basically completely gone away this year. Last year, he was getting almost 1 per game, and this year he only has 1 period. So that is one area where if you get him some layups, maybe you just get his confidence up a little bit. So I would like to see them go in that area a little bit more.
I think that would be really the only thing you could ask for. And that's something that Liam Cohen that was a big staple of the offense in Tampa Bay last year. And you saw Baker was able to create out of structure and extend plays and get him to his guys like that. If the design targets weren't exactly there, you're not seeing that in Jacksonville this year. And Trevor Lawrence has never really been that type of quarterback anyways. So hopefully, there's a strong foundation here in Jacksonville. They just got to turn the key on this guy. So hopefully they get to there at some point. The next one is kind of the opposite of a situation. It's a guy that nobody really expected to produce and isn't really producing, but he's also on a team that might have an interesting foundation. Let's talk a little your pick today. Bill Croskey-Merrit. Is he just Jacory now? Is he still allowed to go by Bill if he is the 41st RB in expected points per game, Evan?
That's a great question. Yeah, he might need to be demoted. I've been calling him Bill Merritt, It kind of has like a 70s NFL kind of vibe, but
or
yeah,
like a vice principal at a public school or something like that. It's one of those two.
yeah, but I guess Ja'Cory Croskey-Merrit is just as bad. So yeah, he's the RB40 in points per game this year, RB41 in expected points per game, and in the last month he hasn't topped 6 fantasy points a single time. That's about as rough as it can get for a starting running back in the NFL. Washington is 30th in team running back usage this year, and Bill at best is a mid receiver. I think that's very generous. He has a 5% target share, 46th in route participation, and a 0.71 yards per route run is not any good. The rushing numbers, like the efficiency stuff, it's pretty solid. It's fine. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him, go crazy in 2026 potentially. But with no Jaden Daniels and no pass catching element to his game, there's really no ceiling at all for Bill to be in our fantasy lineups going forward the rest of the season. He is a borderline drop in redraft leagues.
Yeah, this is a painful one because it's almost like, there's something there to the talent, I think. He's just in the absolute worst situation to even come close to scratching the door on that. He's down to RB29 on our seasonal ranks. He's behind Trey Benson, who hasn't played in a while, Kamani Vidal, who's coming off a little bit of a tough game, and Kenneth Walker, who is coming off of a tough season. Sorry to throw another Kenneth Walker jab at you right now. I know that's not what you want to hear. And this one is hard for me because I did consider myself, a Bill Braggins, but that was under circumstances that I have not seen this year. I have not seen Jaden Daniels. I have not seen a well-called offense. I have not seen personnel in there that can allow this offense not just to hit its ceiling, but hit its floor. He's kind of like Chase Brown, but with Jake Browning. He's in that Brian Robinson role from last year. And last year when Brian Robinson, when the team was trailing or they weren't around the goal line, he was not much of a factor in lineups. And people who drafted him last year are well aware of that. So he's a first and second down wiggler that can't get any wiggle because they are constantly behind the sticks. He's top. The metric wise are interesting, right? They're not good. They're not bad either. He's around 20th in yards per touch, evaded tackles, explosive rating, breakaway runs, true yards per carry. You're just not seeing that translate in production because the team can't translate anything production. And I don't like and kind of to tie that back into you because it sounds like I'm making a case for him here. I'm not. There is no chance that I think that happens for the remainder of the season unless something drastic happens, whether it is something unfortunate with the running back room, a huge step up in play from the offensive line, which Player Profiler has them ranked as the 18th right now in run block win rate. I think a little bit 25th overall. So tough year from the line. If you're trying to hold on to one thing, if you have room for him on your bench, if he's on the waivers around week 13, his fantasy playoff push is not bad. He gets the Giants, he gets the Eagles, he gets the Cowboys. Eagles could go either way. Giants and Cowboys are delicious matchups for running backs. Who knows what the team looks like after that much time under Mariota? I don't know. Thoughts and prayers to this entire situation, but for right now, big time faller.
Yeah, there's really not any case to put him in your lineups until you get to the fantasy playoffs. And if you're in the playoffs and you have to start Bill, that's a really rough situation.
Yeah,
so
we might be doing emergency pods if that's the case.
Yeah, man, it's really rough. And I will say we have him at running back 29 in the seasonal ranks right now, but that's just because there's nobody else. Like after running back 24, it's really rough out there. I mean,
it's a ghost town.
The guys right around him at the moment: Kyle Monangai, Kamani Vidal, Aaron Jones, Tajay Spears, Bashal Tootin, RJ Harvey, and then the Giants running backs. This, there's really nowhere to go from here. It's just a really rough group of guys, and I hope people have better options than Ja'Cory going forward.
I do as well. We're gonna play a quick "Would you rather" here. I'm scrolling down a little bit further, and it really opens up your eyes into the running back rankings for the season. So give me your "Would you rather." Would you rather have Ja'Cory Croskey-Merrit or Alvin Kamara?
Ja'Cory for sure. He's at least neither one has upside, but Ja'Cory has like a 1 on the upside scale, while Kamara is a 0.
Sure. Ja'Cory or Jordan Mason?
Same thing. Give me Ja'Cory. Man.
Tough, right? I know it's not tough, but hard to say. I should rephrase that. All right, one last one here: Ja'Cory or Trevion Henderson?
Give me Henderson. I think. At least he's got upside. The reason why we have Bill ranked ahead of some of these guys is because if you need to put a running back in your lineup, then at least Bill is a starter. Actually Henderson, we'll see what this Ramondre injury looks like. He's going to be moving up a lot in the seasonal ranks probably.
Yeah.
But there's just no upside for Bill. So I will say if you have 3 running backs that are better than Bill on your roster, then I would think about dropping him and picking up just a high leverage backup like Brian Robinson or Blake Corum or somebody like that.
I love those picks. Blake Corum looked really good again last week. Brian Robinson even doing CMC's putting up the games he's having, and he's still finding ways to get involved. A lot of guys down the list here that I think could give you a chance. So I love that insight. I think that's a great way to wrap things up here. So that'll do it for Risers and Fallers today. Evan, why don't you tell those wonderful viewers out there where they can find you and any projects you have going on right now?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at EvanRinglerFF. And besides that, all my work's at PlayerProfiler.com and then here on this YouTube channel. And then, of course, the people can find you at Fantasy Receipts. Is that correct?
That is correct. You can find me at Fantasy Receipts, Fantasy Counselor, Bobby Sylvester, all the good stuff. Love it. All right, great. Well, as always, I'm Chuck Bass. Thank you all for your lovely time today. I hope you guys get out there, win your weekends, win your leagues, win those big bucks. We appreciate you as always on Risers and Fallers. We'll get you out of here. Cheers.